The dust on Kepler 442c's moon was red like rust. Jake Morrison stepped carefully through the ancient ruins, his boots leaving deep prints in soil that hadn't been disturbed for thousands of years. Behind him, 3 other people followed in single file. The air was thin but breathable, and the twin suns cast strange shadows across the broken stone structures. "Stay close," Jake said into his helmet radio. His voice was calm, but his heart beat faster than usual. The Galactic Coalition had forbidden anyone from coming here. They never said why. That alone made Jake curious. Lisa Grant, the team's medic, walked second in line. She carried a medical scanner in one hand and kept checking the readings. Air quality is stable. No toxins detected. But something feels wrong about this place. Danny Cole, their engineer, laughed nervously. "Everything feels wrong when you're breaking the biggest rule in the galaxy." "We shouldn't be here, Jake. We're explorers," Jake replied. "It's our job to go where others won't." The 4th member of their team, Dr. Helen Park, said nothing. She was busy taking samples of the stone walls. Helen was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. Her scanner beeped constantly as she worked. Whatever information it was collecting, it made her frown deeper with each step. They had been walking for 2 hours when they found the entrance. It was hidden beneath a collapsed archway, barely visible unless you knew what to look for. Jake did. He had studied the satellite images for weeks before convincing his crew to make this illegal trip. "There," he pointed. "Help me clear these rocks." The 4 of them worked together, moving stone after stone. Their ship, the Wayfinder, was parked 3 miles away in a valley. They had maybe 6 hours before the Coalition's patrol ships would pass through this sector again. If they were caught here, they would spend years in a prison facility. But Jake couldn't shake the dreams. For 3 months, he had seen the same vision every night. Earth burning, cities turning to ash, billions of people screaming. And in every dream, a voice whispered that the answer was here, on this forbidden moon. The rocks finally gave way. Behind them was a tunnel leading down into darkness. Jake turned on his helmet light and started walking. The others followed without question. They trusted him, even when his decisions seemed crazy. The tunnel walls were smooth, too smooth to be natural. Someone had carved this path with tools far beyond human technology. Symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly with a blue light that seemed to come from within the stone itself. "These markings," Helen said, running her gloved hand across them. "They're not from any known civilization. The Coalition database has nothing like this." "How old are they?" Lisa asked. "At least 10,000 years? "Maybe more." They walked deeper. The tunnel sloped downward at a gentle angle, going far beneath the surface. Jake's scanner showed they were now 300 feet underground. The air grew warmer. The blue glow from the symbols grew brighter. Then the tunnel opened into a chamber. Jake stopped so suddenly that Danny almost crashed into him. The chamber was enormous, easily the size of a football stadium. But it was what sat in the center that made everyone freeze. A pool of liquid rested in a perfectly circular basin. The liquid glowed with colors that shouldn't exist together. It was silver and gold and blue and colors Jake had no names for. The surface was perfectly still, like glass, but occasionally ripples would appear even though nothing touched it. "What is that?" Lisa whispered. Helen was already scanning it. Her face went pale as she read the results. "This is impossible. The scanner says the liquid exists in multiple dimensions at once. It's here, but it's also somewhere else. My equipment can't make sense of it." Jake walked closer. He felt drawn to the pool in a way he couldn't explain. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. When he looked at the surface, he saw reflections that didn't match reality. He saw himself but older. He saw Earth, but it looked different, wrong. "Jake, don't get too close," Lisa warned. She could read him well. They had served together for 5 years, but Jake was already kneeling beside the pool. The liquid seemed to call to him, not with sound, but with something deeper, a feeling that vibrated in his bones. "The dreams," he said quietly. "This is what I've been seeing." "This pool is the answer." "Answer to what?" Danny asked, his voice shaking. "To why Earth dies in my visions. To why the Coalition forbids anyone from coming here." Helen grabbed his shoulder. "Jake, we need to leave." "We need to report this to someone who understands what we're looking at. This substance could be dangerous. It could be a weapon." Jake looked at her. His eyes were distant, unfocused. "What if it's not a weapon? What if it's a warning? What if I'm supposed to understand something? Or what if it kills you?" Lisa moved to his other side. "Please, Jake, let's go back to the ship. We can figure this out safely." But the visions were flooding back. Jake saw Earth burning. He saw billions of people dying. He saw humanity ending, and in every vision, a voice kept saying the same thing over and over. Drink. Understand. Become. His hand reached toward the liquid before his mind could stop it. His fingers broke the surface. The liquid was cold, impossibly cold, but it didn't feel wet. It felt like touching pure energy. Jake, no, Helen shouted, but it was too late. The liquid clung to his fingers like it was alive. It crawled up his hand, moving against gravity. Jake tried to pull away, but his body wouldn't obey. The liquid reached his wrist, then his elbow. Something took control of him. His hand lifted toward his face. The liquid dripped from his fingers. His mouth opened. Stop him. Lisa lunged forward, but Danny held her back. If we touch him now, it might get us too, Danny said, horror in his voice. Jake's fingers touched his lips. The liquid poured into his mouth. It tasted like metal and electricity and something sweet he couldn't identify. He swallowed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then pain exploded through every nerve in his body. Jake fell backward, screaming. His body convulsed on the stone floor. Lisa and Danny rushed to him, Helen right behind them. Get him to the ship, Lisa ordered. Now! They grabbed him under the arms and dragged him back through the tunnel. Jake's screams echoed off the walls. His skin was changing color, shifting between normal and something that glowed faintly in the darkness. His eyes rolled back in his head. By the time they reached the Wayfinder, Jake had stopped screaming. He had stopped moving entirely. Lisa got him onto the medical bay table and started working immediately. Her hands moved with practiced precision, but her face showed fear. His vitals are all over the place, she said, reading the monitors. Heart rate is 200. No, wait, now it's 40. His temperature is dropping. His DNA is changing. That's impossible. DNA doesn't just change. Helen was scanning him with every piece of equipment they had. The liquid is rewriting him at the molecular level. His cells are transforming into something new. Can you stop it? Danny asked. I don't even understand what it's doing. How can I stop something I can't understand? Jake's eyes suddenly opened. They were no longer brown. They glowed with the same impossible colors as the liquid in the pool. He looked at Lisa, and for a moment she didn't recognize the person staring back at her. Then Jake's mouth moved. A voice came out, but it wasn't his voice. It was older, deeper, wrong. You don't know what you've become, the voice said. Then Jake's eyes closed again. His body went limp. The monitors showed his heart had stopped. Lisa grabbed the medical paddles. Clear! Electricity shot through Jake's body. His back arched off the table. Nothing again, Lisa shouted. Clear! Another shock. Another nothing. Helen pulled Lisa away gently. He's gone. But then the monitor beeped. Once. Twice. Jake's heart was beating again, slow but steady. His chest rose and fell with breath. He's alive, Danny whispered. How is he alive? Lisa checked the readings again. I don't know. But look at this. His brain activity is off the charts. He's not unconscious. He's changing. Whatever that liquid was, it's transforming him into something else. Into what? Danny asked. Nobody answered. Nobody knew. Outside the ship, the red dust blew in the wind. The ruins stood silent under the twin suns. Deep beneath the surface, in the hidden chamber, the pool of impossible liquid waited. Its surface was still again, reflecting nothing. But if anyone had been there to listen, they might have heard something. A whisper, so quiet it was almost imaginary. A voice speaking in a language older than stars. The first has drunk. The change begins. Let them see what humanity truly is. 3 days passed before Jake opened his eyes again. When he did, Lisa almost screamed. His eyes were different. They changed colors constantly, shifting through shades that human eyes shouldn't be able to make. Brown to gold to silver to something in between. Even stranger, when he looked at her, Lisa felt like he could see through her. Not through her body, but through her thoughts, her feelings, everything that made her who she was. Jake, she said carefully, can you hear me? He turned his head slowly, like he was learning how to move all over again. Lisa. His voice was his own, but different somehow, deeper. Like it was coming from somewhere far away. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear everything. What do you mean, everything? Jake sat up. The motion was too smooth, too perfect. Humans didn't move like that. The ship's engines. They're running at 87% efficiency. There's a small crack in the coolant line in Section 3. Danny's heart is beating fast because he's scared. Your heart is beating faster because you're more scared than him. Helen is in the lab and she's angry. I can hear her thoughts. No, not here. Feel? I don't have words for what I'm experiencing. Lisa stepped back. Jake, you're not making sense. I know. He looked at his hands. The skin was pale, almost translucent. Veins glowed faintly beneath the surface with that same impossible light from the pool. I can see things I couldn't see before. Radio waves. Magnetic fields. The radiation from the ship's reactor. It's like someone turned on lights I didn't know existed. He stood up. The medical monitors went crazy, alarms blaring. But Jake didn't seem to notice. He walked to the window and looked out at the red moon's surface. Time feels wrong, he said quietly. It's moving too slow. Or I'm moving too fast. I can't tell which. Lisa hit the intercom button. Helen and Danny, get to medical bay now. They arrived within minutes. Danny stopped in the doorway when he saw Jake standing. You're awake. Thank God you're awake. But Helen's face showed only concern. She had her scanner out immediately, pointing it at Jake. The device made sounds it had never made before. Error messages scrolled across the screen. The transformation is still happening, Helen said.
His DNA is stabilizing, but it's not human anymore.
Not entirely. It's something new. Jake turned to face them. When he moved, the lights flickered. The medical monitors sparked. The intercom started playing static. Stay back, Jake said, his voice urgent. Something's wrong. When I get close to electronics, they stop working right. Danny checked his tablet. The screen was scrambled, showing nonsense. What did that liquid do to you? I don't know, but I can feel it inside me, still changing things. My brain is working differently. I can process information faster than before, much faster. I looked at the star charts for 2 seconds yesterday, and now I can remember every single detail. Every star, every planet, like I took a picture with my mind. Helen was typing notes frantically on a paper pad since her scanner had stopped working near Jake. The liquid must have been some kind of nanotechnology, microscopic machines that rewrite biological systems. Why? Lisa asked. Why would anyone create something like that? I've been researching the ruins, Helen said. I found references in the Coalition's restricted files. There was a civilization called the Architects. They disappeared 10,000 years ago. But before they vanished, they left things behind, weapons, tests. This pool might be one of them. A weapon? Danny's voice cracked. You mean Jake drank a weapon? Helen nodded slowly. The Architects believed in controlling evolution. They created biological tools that would transform members of other species. The goal was to create perfect hunters, beings specifically designed to hunt and destroy one particular species. The room went silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing, humans, Jake whispered. It's turning me into something that hunts humans. We don't know that for certain, Helen said quickly. But her face said she believed it was true. Jake felt it then. A surge of something dark inside his mind. For just a moment, he looked at his crew differently. He saw weaknesses. Lisa's left knee had an old injury that made her slower. Danny's reaction time was 0.3 seconds behind average. Helen's field of vision had a blind spot. He saw them as prey. The thought terrified him. Jake stumbled backward, hitting the wall. Get away from me. All of you, get away. Jake, calm down. Lisa moved toward him. I said, get away. The lights exploded. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. The medical equipment burst into flames. Danny grabbed a fire extinguisher while Helen pulled Lisa toward the door. Jake collapsed to his knees, holding his head in his hands. There's something in my mind, he gasped. A voice. It's telling me things. Showing me things. It wants me to hunt you. It wants me to kill you. Fight it, Lisa called from the doorway. You're stronger than some ancient programming. But Jake wasn't sure that was true. The voice was getting louder. It whispered in languages he didn't know but somehow understood. It showed him visions of himself hunting through space stations, through colonies, through Earth itself. In the visions, he was fast and strong and unstoppable. In the visions, he was perfect. You were chosen, the voice said. It sounded pleased. Accept the gift. Become what you were meant to be. No, Jake said through clenched teeth. I'm human. I'm staying human. Human is weak. Human is prey. You are predator now. I'm Jake Morrison. I'm a lieutenant commander. I'm from Earth. I'm human. He repeated it like a prayer over and over. Slowly, the voice grew quieter. The dark urges faded, pushed down deep inside where he could control them. For now. When Jake looked up, his friends were still in the doorway, watching him with fear and concern mixed together. "I need to be alone," Jake said. "Please lock me in the cargo bay. Build something to contain me. I don't trust what I might become." "We're not locking you up like an animal," Lisa protested. "You have to. What if I lose control while you're sleeping? What if the voice wins? I could kill all of you before you even woke up." Jake's eyes met hers. "Please, Lisa, I'm asking you to save yourselves from me." Danny nodded slowly. "He's right. We need safety measures, just in case." They moved Jake to the cargo bay, the largest room on the ship. Danny spent hours welding metal bars across the doors and windows. He installed motion sensors and cameras. He built a separate air system so they could pump in sedative gas if needed. Jake sat in the corner the whole time, watching them work. The voice in his head kept talking, but he was learning to ignore it. Mostly. Helen brought him food and water, passing it through a slot in the bars. "I've been studying the architect's files. Every other species that encountered their weapons was destroyed. The transformations always won. The hunters always killed their own kind." "Why are you telling me this?" Jake asked. "Because you're different. You're fighting it. None of the others did that. Maybe humans have something the architects didn't account for." "Like what? Stubborn stupidity?" Helen almost smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe humanity's refusal to accept predetermined destinies. We've never been good at doing what we're told." After she left, Jake sat alone in the darkness. The cargo bay was cold and empty. Through the small window, he could see stars. They looked different to his new eyes. He could see wavelengths of light that used to be invisible. Some stars pulsed with radiation. Others were dim and dying. The voice started again. "You cannot fight forever. Rest, sleep. Let me show you what you can become." "I already know what I am," Jake said to the empty room. "I'm human. That's not changing." But even as he said it, he felt his body shifting. His muscles were denser than before. His bones were harder. His reflexes were impossibly fast. He had tested himself earlier, catching a wrench that Danny dropped. His hand had moved before his brain even registered the wrench was falling. He was becoming something more than human. The question was whether he could do that without becoming something less than human in the ways that mattered. Outside the cargo bay, Lisa and Danny and Helen were in the control room, trying to figure out what to do next. "We need help," Danny said. "This is beyond us. Who do we ask?" Lisa replied. "The Coalition will kill him the moment they find out what happened. They'll probably kill us too for being contaminated." Helen was reading something on her tablet. Her face went pale. "What is it?" Lisa asked. "I found a transmission. It's old, automated, but it was triggered when Jake drank from the pool. It's been broadcasting on Coalition frequencies for 3 days." "Broadcasting what?" "A warning. It's telling the Coalition that a hunter has been activated. They'll be coming for us." Danny checked the sensors. "How long until they get here?" "Coalition ships are fast. Maybe 12 hours, maybe less." Lisa looked at the cargo bay camera feed. Jake was sitting in the corner, his eyes closed, his lips moving like he was talking to someone they couldn't see. "We run," she decided. "We get as far away as possible and find somewhere to hide. Somewhere we can figure this out without the Coalition destroying us." "Where?" Danny asked. "They control most of known space. Then we go to unknown space. There's an abandoned architect facility in the Vega system. It's been quarantined for centuries, but the records say it was a research station. Maybe we can find answers there." Helen nodded. "It's dangerous. But staying here is certain death." They plotted the course. Danny started the engines. The Wayfinder lifted off from the red moon, leaving the ruins behind. In the cargo bay, Jake felt. The Coalition ships arrived exactly 11 hours and 47 minutes after the Wayfinder jumped to hyperspace. There were 6 of them, sleek vessels that could move faster than anything humans had built. They surrounded the abandoned moon like predators circling wounded prey. From the flagship, Ambassador Krell watched the empty ruins below. Krell was not human. His species, the harmonic, looked like living crystal sculptures. Light passed through their bodies, creating rainbows wherever they went. They communicated through musical tones that translated automatically into other languages. "The signal came from here," Krell's assistant said. "Her name was Mora, and she was young for a harmonic, barely 300 years old. The pool has been disturbed. Someone drank from it." Krell made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. The translator converted it to words. "Then it is too late for them. Begin the standard protocol. Find the ship, find the infected individual, destroy them before the transformation completes. Ambassador, they're humans. Is destruction absolutely necessary? Krell turned to face her. His crystalline body refracted the ship's lights into 1,000 tiny stars. I know you are young, Mora. You have not seen what these weapons can do. I have. 17 times I have watched civilizations fall because someone drank from an architect pool. 17 times I have seen entire worlds emptied of life. The architects designed these weapons to be perfect. The hunters they create cannot be stopped by conventional means. But the humans might be different. The humans will die like all the others. It is mercy. Would you prefer they suffer longer? Would you prefer we wait until one transformed human has killed millions of their own kind? Krell's tone was sad but firm. We give them 12 hours to surrender the infected. If they do not, we destroy their ship. There can be no exceptions. Mora said nothing more. She had learned early in her training that arguing with Krell was useless. He had lived for 2,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He knew things that were not in any database. The coalition ships began scanning the system. They found the Wayfinder's ion trail leading toward the Vega system. Krell ordered the fleet to follow. 12 hours, he repeated. Then we show them the mercy of a quick death. On the Wayfinder, Lisa received the coalition's message. It was simple and clear. Surrender Jake Morrison for immediate termination, or be destroyed along with him. They had 12 hours to decide. She didn't tell Jake immediately. Instead, she called a meeting with Helen and Danny in the control room. What do we do? Danny asked. His hands were shaking. We can't fight them. One coalition ship could tear us apart. They have 6. We don't fight, Helen said quietly. We run faster. To where? They'll catch us eventually. Their ships are better than ours. Lisa was staring at the tactical display. The coalition fleet was 4 hours behind them and closing the gap slowly. At this rate, they would be caught before reaching the Vega system. What if we give them Jake? Danny said. Everyone went silent. I'm not saying I want to. I'm saying what if that's the only option? We could save ourselves. Lisa's face hardened. We don't trade lives. We don't abandon crew members. Not ever. Even if it means we all die. Even then, Helen cleared her throat. There might be another way. The coalition said Jake is infected, that he's going to become a hunter that will destroy humanity. But what if they're wrong? What do you mean? Lisa asked. I've been monitoring Jake. Yes, he's changing. Yes, there's something inside him trying to make him into a weapon. But he's fighting it. The architects probably never planned for that. They probably assumed their programming was perfect, that no one could resist it. So maybe Jake is proof that their weapons can fail. Maybe humans are different somehow. Danny shook his head. That's a big maybe to bet all our lives on. We're already betting our lives, Helen pointed out. The moment we decided not to surrender Jake, we chose this path. Lisa thought about Jake sitting alone in the cargo bay. He had asked to be locked up. He had asked them to protect themselves from him. That wasn't the action of a mindless hunter. That was the action of someone desperately trying to stay human. We keep going, Lisa decided. We reach the architect facility. We find answers. And we don't give up on Jake. Danny sighed but nodded. Then we better go faster. In the cargo bay, Jake felt the ship accelerate. The engines strained at maximum power. He could hear every rivet, every weld, every joint in the ship's structure. Some were weak. A few were cracking under the stress. The ship wasn't built for this kind of speed. The voice in his head had been quiet for the past hour. Jake didn't trust the silence. Every time the voice stopped, it came back stronger. He looked at his hands again. They were steady, but they didn't feel like his hands anymore. The fingers were longer. The nails were harder, almost like claws. His skin had taken on a faint metallic sheen. Jake had tried looking in a mirror earlier. He had lasted 5 seconds before turning away. The face looking back at him was still his, but wrong. His eyes were too bright. His features were too perfect, like someone had taken his face and removed all the small imperfections that made him human. He was becoming something else. The question was what? The voice returned suddenly, shouting instead of whispering. They're coming for you. The coalition! They will kill you because they fear what you might become. Will you let them? Will you die without fighting? I won't kill my friends, Jake said aloud. I don't ask you to kill them. I ask you to save yourself. Save them. You have power now. Use it. What power? I make electronics stop working. I can see radio waves. How does that help against coalition warships? The voice laughed. You understand so little of what you are. Let me show you." Before Jake could resist, visions flooded his mind. He saw himself moving through the ship at impossible speeds. He saw his hands tearing through metal like paper. He saw himself in space, breathing vacuum, surviving temperatures that would instantly kill normal humans. The voice showed him battles. Hundreds of them, thousands. In every vision, Jake was unstoppable. He moved like lightning. He thought like a computer. He was perfect. "This is what the architects created," the voice said. "This is what you are becoming. Accept it, use it, or die cowering in a cage." Jake wanted to reject the visions, but part of him, a growing part, whispered that the voice was right. He could feel the potential inside him, waiting to be released. He was stronger than he had ever been, faster, smarter. Why should he hide from that? The ship shuddered. An alarm blared throughout the corridors. Jake heard Lisa's voice over the intercom. "Coalition ships have entered weapons range. They're firing warning shots. Everyone brace for..." The ship rocked violently. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Jake stood up. The bars that Danny had welded across the cargo bay door looked flimsy now. He could bend them easily if he wanted to. He could tear his way out of this cage and do something. Save his friends. Save himself. His hands moved toward the bars without him consciously deciding to move them. "No," he said firmly. He forced his hands down to his sides. "I'm not that. I'm not a weapon." "Then you are nothing," the voice hissed. "You will die, and your friends will die, and humanity will never know what gift was offered to them." The ship shook again. This hit was closer. The Coalition was no longer firing warning shots. They were trying to disable the engines. Through the cargo bay window, Jake saw one of the Coalition ships come into view. It was beautiful and terrible, all smooth curves and glowing energy. Weapons ports opened along its hull like eyes opening. 10 minutes, the voice said. "In 10 minutes, they will destroy this ship. In 10 minutes, everyone you care about will be dead. Unless you act." Jake closed his eyes. He thought about Lisa, who had been his friend for 5 years. He thought about Danny, who had built the cage that imprisoned him because Jake had asked him to. He thought about Helen, who believed humans were different, that they could overcome the architect's programming. He thought about what it meant to be human. Humans were weak compared to the thing he was becoming. Humans were slow and fragile and limited, but humans were also stubborn. They didn't give up. They didn't accept destinies written by others. They fought even when fighting was impossible. "I am Jake Morrison," he said quietly. "I am human. And humans don't surrender." He walked to the intercom on the wall. His hand hesitated over the button. If he called them, if he told them he could help, it would mean accepting some of what he was becoming. It would mean using the power the architects had given him. But what choice did he have? Let his friends die to preserve his humanity? Or save them and risk losing himself? Jake pressed the button. "Lisa, let me out." There was a long pause. Then Lisa's voice crackling with static. "Jake, you're safer in there." "Maybe, but you're not. The Coalition isn't going to negotiate. They're going to kill all of us. Let me help." "How?" "I don't know yet. But I'm stronger than I was, faster. Maybe that's enough." Another explosion rocked the ship, closer this time. The hull was breaching in multiple places. They didn't have much time. "Helen," Lisa's voice came through again. "What do you think?" "I think we're dead either way," Helen replied. "At least this way, we give Jake a chance to be more than a monster. We let him choose to save us rather than hunt us." Danny's voice joined in. "I'm not dying without trying everything. Let him." Jake had never been in a spacesuit outside a ship before. The training simulations didn't prepare him for the reality of it. The emptiness, the silence, the knowledge that if his suit failed, he would die in seconds. But something had changed in him. As he floated in the void between the Wayfinder and the Coalition ships, he felt calm. His new body seemed to understand this environment in ways his human mind didn't. "Jake, what are you doing?" Lisa's voice came through his helmet radio, frantic. "Buying time," he replied. He had asked them to seal the ship behind him and run, to use the distraction he was about to create and escape toward the Vega system. They had argued. He had insisted. Finally, they had agreed. The nearest Coalition ship loomed ahead of him, massive and gleaming. Jake could see the energy building in its weapons, ready to fire on the Wayfinder. He had maybe 30 seconds before they destroyed his friends. He pushed off from a piece of debris, moving faster than he should be able to. His body seemed to know instinctively how to navigate zero gravity. Within seconds, he had crossed half the distance to the Coalition ship. "Unknown human is approaching," a voice said over the open channel. It was Krell. "You cannot escape your fate. Return to your vessel." "No," Jake said simply. He slammed into the Coalition ship's hull with both hands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then electricity arced from his palms into the metal. The ship's exterior lights flickered and died. Jake didn't understand what he had done. The voice had shown him the visions, but he hadn't believed he could actually do it. Somehow his body could generate and direct electromagnetic pulses. He was interfacing with the ship's systems just by touching it. Inside the Coalition vessel, alarms were blaring. Krell watched his control panels go dark one by one. "What is happening?" "The human is on our hull," Mora reported. "He's disrupting our systems somehow. The weapons are offline. Life support is failing. Impossible. No biological organism can do that." But Jake was doing it. He could feel the ship's systems in his mind like a map. He found the weapons array and shut it down completely. He found the engine controls and threw them into emergency stop. The ship went dead in space. Behind him, the Wayfinder's engines flared bright. Lisa was running. Good. Jake pushed off toward the second Coalition ship. This one had seen what happened to the first. They fired at him with small defense weapons, but Jake was moving too fast. The shots missed by meters. He hit the second ship and did the same thing. Electricity flowed from his hands. Systems crashed. The ship went dark. "This is impossible," Krell said, watching from a third vessel. "The transformation shouldn't be this advanced already. It takes weeks for the hunters to develop their full abilities." "Maybe humans transform faster," Mora suggested. She sounded more curious than afraid. "Or maybe this one is different." Jake was reaching for the third ship when pain exploded through his skull. He screamed, the sound lost in the vacuum of space. The voice was back, louder than ever. "See? See what you can do? This is only the beginning. Accept me. Become what you were meant to be." "No," Jake gasped. "I'm just buying time. For my friends, you are becoming the perfect hunter. Stop resisting! Let me show you what true power feels like." The pain intensified. Jake felt his body changing more rapidly. His bones shifted. His muscles grew denser. The suit was too tight now, restricting him. With a single motion, he tore it away. The vacuum should have killed him instantly. It didn't. Jake floated in open space, breathing nothing, and he was fine. His skin had become a barrier that didn't need air. His blood was carrying oxygen in ways that human blood couldn't. He was no longer human enough to die from vacuum exposure. The realization terrified him more than anything else. "See?" the voice whispered. "You are beyond them now. Beyond weak. Beyond mortal. Accept it." Jake saw his reflection in the Coalition ship's hull. The face looking back was barely his own. The eyes glowed like stars. The skin was metallic and perfect. He looked like something the architects had carved from living metal. For a moment, he wanted to give in, to stop fighting, to become whatever this transformation wanted him to be. It would be so easy. The voice promised power, purpose, perfection. Then he thought about Lisa, about Danny, about Helen, about Earth, about billions of people who had no idea that someone was trying to turn him into their killer. "No," he said again. "I'm human. I'm staying human." He pushed away from the third ship, not disabling it. Instead, he activated his helmet radio. "Krell, Ambassador Krell, I want to talk." There was a long pause. Then Krell's melodic voice replied, "There is nothing to discuss. You are infected. You must be destroyed. I'm controlling it. I'm fighting the programming. That changes nothing. Eventually you will lose. The architect's weapons always win. What if I don't? What if humans are different?" Another pause. Jake floated in space, watching the Wayfinder's engines grow smaller in the distance. They were getting away. That was all that mattered. "Come aboard my ship," Krell said finally. "Let us talk face to face. But be warned, if you show any signs of losing control, I will kill you instantly." Fair enough. The nearest Coalition ship opened an airlock. Jake propelled himself inside. The chamber sealed behind him. Air flooded in. He stood there, dripping and cold, wearing nothing but tatters of his destroyed spacesuit. Guards met him on the other side, weapons drawn. They were from a species Jake didn't recognize. tall and thin with too many joints in their limbs. They gestured for him to follow. They led him to a room made entirely of crystal. Krell stood in the center, his body refracting light into dozens of colors. Up close, the ambassador was even more impressive. He must have been 12 feet tall. "You should be dead," Krell said without preamble. "Exposure to vacuum. No suit, no air. Yet you live." "The transformation," Jake said. "It's making me into something that can survive anything. Something that can hunt anywhere." The architects designed their weapons to be adaptable. A hunter must follow prey into any environment. I'm not a hunter. Not yet. But you will be. Every other infected has said the same words. They all believed they could resist. They were all wrong. Jake felt the truth in those words. The voice was quieter now, but it hadn't gone away. It was patient. It could wait. It knew it would win eventually. "How many?" Jake asked. "How many species have been destroyed by these weapons?" 17 that we know of. Perhaps more that we never discovered. "What happened to them?" Krell made a sound like wind through a cave. "The pattern is always the same. One individual drinks from an architect pool. They transform over several weeks. At first, they fight the programming. They believe they can resist. Then slowly, the hunter awakens. It starts with small things. Violent thoughts. Aggressive impulses. Then comes the first kill, usually someone close to them. A friend or family member. After the first kill, the transformation completes rapidly. Within days, the hunter is fully active, and then they hunt. They are unstoppable, you see. The architects studied each species carefully. They designed the hunters to exploit every weakness. For your species, they created something that looks human enough to get close to people, but is strong enough to tear through security measures. Something that can blend in until it's time to strike. Jake felt sick. "How do you stop them?" "We don't, not really. The hunters can't be killed by conventional weapons. They heal too quickly. They adapt to every attack. Eventually, they kill so many that the species panics. Civilizations collapse from within. By the time we arrive to help, there's no one left to save. Then why are you here? Why not just let me transform and watch humanity die?" Krell's crystalline face showed something that might have been sadness. "Because I am tired of watching species die. Because perhaps just once someone will prove strong enough to resist. And because your friend sent a message before they fled. Dr. Helen Park believes you are different. She thinks humans might have a quality the architects didn't account for." "What quality?" "Stubbornness, I believe she said." Despite everything, Jake almost laughed. "That sounds about right." "Come," Krell said. "Your friends are traveling to the architect facility in the Vega system. We will escort you there. Perhaps we will find answers. Perhaps we will only find confirmation that you are doomed. Either way, we should know the truth." The coalition ships formed a protective formation around the Wayfinder, no longer hunting, now guarding. Jake stayed on Krell's vessel, isolated in a chamber that could be sealed and destroyed at a moment's notice. It took 6 days to reach the Vega system. During that time, Jake felt the changes continue. His body was becoming something beyond human. He could see in wavelengths that had no names. He could hear conversations happening in other parts of the ship through solid metal walls. He could process information faster than any computer, and the voice kept talking, showing him what he could become. Promising power. On the 6th day, they arrived at the architect facility. It orbited a dying star, a massive structure that made even the coalition ships look small. The facility was shaped like a spiral, twisting in ways that hurt Jake's eyes to look at. The architects loved impossible geometry, Krell explained. They believed physical laws were suggestions to be overcome. They docked with the facility. Jake, Krell, Mora, Lisa, Helen, and Danny entered together. The inside was worse than the outside. Corridors that led in directions that... The ship that appeared in the Vega system wasn't made of metal or any material Jake could recognize. It looked like it was made of pure light, held together by forces that shouldn't exist. Just looking at it made his head hurt. "What is that?" Danny asked, his voice barely a whisper. Krell's crystalline body dimmed like he was afraid. Jake had never seen the ambassador show fear before. "The inheritors." "I had hoped they were only legends. What are inheritors?" The architects believed in forced evolution. They believed in controlling and directing life. But some of them disagreed with this philosophy. They believed the ultimate evolution was to transcend physical form entirely. They transformed themselves into beings of pure energy. The inheritors are what they became. The lightship moved closer to the facility. Jake could feel it somehow, like a pressure inside his skull. The voice that had been screaming fell silent. Even the architect programming seemed afraid of whatever was approaching. A communication came through on all frequencies. It wasn't sound. It was thought, planted directly into their minds. We sense one who is changing, one who walks the path between forms. We have come for him. Jake felt the words like ice water in his veins. They want me? They believe you are becoming like them, Krell said. A being who transcends normal biological limitations. They wish to recruit you, to convince you to complete the transformation and join them in their eternal existence. Lisa stepped in front of Jake protectively. He's not going anywhere. The thought voice came again, amused. The lesser forms believe they can protect the changing one. How quaint. We do not take by force. We offer choice. Come, changing one, let us speak. Before anyone could stop him, Jake felt his body lifting off the ground. Not physically. His consciousness was being pulled, drawn toward the lightship like metal to a magnet. He tried to resist, but it was like trying to stop a tide with his hands. Then he was somewhere else. Not a place, a space, a void filled with light and thought and beings that had once been alive but now were something beyond life. The inheritors surrounded him. Hundreds of them, thousands. Each one had once been an architect, but they had shed their bodies like old clothes. Now they existed as pure consciousness, eternal and unchanging. You feel the transformation, they said. Their voices were many and one at the same time. You feel your body becoming more than flesh. Your mind expanding beyond the limitations of organic thought. Soon you will be ready to leave your physical form behind. Join us, become eternal. Jake looked at his hands. They glowed with the same metallic light he had seen in the pool. His body was still changing, still adapting. Part of him wanted what they offered. To be beyond pain, beyond death, beyond the messy complications of being human. What happens if I join you? He asked. You become infinite. You travel the galaxy as thought rather than matter. You observe civilizations rise and fall. You exist outside of time, witnessing eternity. And my friends, my family, Earth, they become irrelevant. You will transcend the need for connection to lesser beings. You will be above such primitive attachments. Jake thought about Lisa, who had refused to abandon him, even when he was dangerous. He thought about Danny, who had built a cage to contain him because Jake had asked. He thought about Helen, who believed humans could overcome the architect's programming through pure stubbornness. He thought about Earth, about billions of people living their messy, complicated, beautiful lives, about laughter and tears and love and loss and all the things that made being human worth it. No, Jake said. The inheritors recoiled. You refuse evolution? You choose to remain trapped in flesh? I choose to remain human. Evolution isn't about becoming perfect. It's about adapting to survive. And humans survive by staying connected to each other, by being messy and emotional and stubbornly loyal even when it's stupid. You will die eventually. All biological forms end, I know. That's what makes life precious. That's what the architects never understood. You can't appreciate existence if you're eternal. You can't value connection if you're above needing anyone. The inheritors were silent for a long moment. Then they spoke again, confused. We do not understand your choice. We offer you perfection and you choose limitation. You offer me loneliness disguised as enlightenment. I choose my imperfect friends and my imperfect life. Jake felt himself being pulled back. The void disappeared. He was standing in the architect facility again, his feet solid on the ground. Lisa caught him as he stumbled. What happened? She asked. I told them no. I told them I'm staying human. The lightship lingered for another moment. Then it simply vanished, like it had never been there at all. The inheritors were gone. Krell made a sound like crystals chiming. In 2,000 years, I have never seen anyone refuse the inheritors' offer. You continue to surprise me, Jake Morrison. Helen was scanning Jake again. Look at this. The transformation has stabilized. It's not complete, but it's not progressing anymore either. You're locked in a state between human and whatever the architects meant you to become. What does that mean? It means you keep the abilities but stay yourself. The programming failed because you refused to let it succeed. The inheritors failed because you refused their offer. You created a third option that no one thought was possible. Danny laughed, almost hysterical. Only humans would look at two impossible choices and decide to make up a third one. Over the next several hours, they explored more of the facility. They found records of the architect's fall. The weapons they created had eventually turned on them, just like Helen said. They learned that humans weren't the only species marked for elimination. Dozens of civilizations had been targeted over thousands of years, but humans were different. The genetic mutation that Jake carried, the one that made the transformation fail, was unique to humanity. The architects had noticed it in their studies but dismissed it as a flaw. They never realized it would be the thing that saved humans from their weapons. Evolution is smarter than any designer, Helen said, reading the final entries in the architect database. They tried to control it, but it controlled them instead. The mutation in Jake's DNA is humanity's natural defense against forced evolution. Nature protecting itself. Krell listened carefully. Then he made a decision. I will report to the Coalition. I will tell them that Jake Morrison is not a threat, that humanity has proven capable of overcoming the architect weapons through their own unique biology and willpower. Will they believe you? Lisa asked. Some will. Others will not. But I have lived long enough to know truth when I see it. And the truth is that humans are remarkable. Annoying, stubborn, and illogical, but remarkable. They returned to their ships. Jake went with his crew on the Wayfinder. As they prepared to leave the Vega system, Mora contacted them on a private channel. Ambassador Krell wanted me to tell you something, she said. The architects studied 17 species and destroyed them all. Do you know how many of those species had members who tried to resist the transformation? How many? Jake asked. All of them. Every single species had individuals who fought the programming. But none of them succeeded. You are the first, Jake Morrison, the first in 10,000 years to actually win. The transmission ended. Jake sat in the common area of the Wayfinder, processing her words. Lisa brought him food, but he barely touched it. He was still getting used to his changed body. Food tasted different now. Everything felt different. What do we do now? Danny asked. Go home? We report to Earth Command, Lisa said. Tell them everything. Let them decide what happens next. Over the following weeks, they traveled back to Earth. Jake spent the time learning to control his new abilities. He could still shut down electronics with a touch, but he was learning to control it. He could still see wavelengths of light that humans normally couldn't, but he was learning to filter them out when he needed to. The voice in his head was gone completely now. The architect programming had given up. Jake was still changing, but slowly. Helen believed the transformation would continue for years, maybe decades. He would become something truly unique, a bridge between human and something more. When they arrived at Earth, Jake was taken to a secure facility for evaluation. Scientists studied him. Military leaders questioned him. Politicians debated what he represented. In the end, they made a decision. Jake would work with volunteers, people who carried the same genetic mutation he did. Together, they would explore what the failed transformation could become. Not weapons, not hunters, but something new. Enhanced humans who could survive in environments that would kill normal people. Who could process information faster? Who could help humanity expand into the dangerous galaxy? A year passed. Jake stood in a training facility on the moon, watching volunteers learn to use their abilities. Each person's transformation was different, shaped by their individual genetics and personality. Some could generate electromagnetic fields. Others had enhanced strength. A few could survive in vacuum like Jake, but they were all still human. They laughed and cried and got angry and fell in love. They were messy and imperfect and beautifully flawed. Lisa visited him at the facility. She had been promoted to captain, given command of her own ship. Danny was her chief engineer. Helen was leading a research team studying architect technology. How are you feeling? Lisa asked. Jake looked at his hands. The leader